Let's go for it. And thank you for joining us this afternoon. It will be a very, very practical session for this ELT new platform that we have and that some of you have helped us to develop. As you know, Fiction Express ELT. I'm going to share very briefly the platform just for those who are not so familiarized with it. And just let me share my screen 1 second because I'm more used to now. Okay, so you can see, I guess you can see, yeah, my platform. You can see a student's dashboard. We co-create books along with the authors, as you know, and those books are in three different levels. Each level is has a 2-level breakdown and we cover from A2 to C1. We are very, very well mapped to the syllabus that they need to cover at each level. So very briefly, how do we co-create books? We co-create the books this way. Kids get into the book and read a chapter of the book. We publish the chapters on a weekly basis, and after every week, kids can decide on the plot through a voting system. You will see they can read, they can listen to the audio, or both things. Better if they read, right? Because this is a reading platform. And then when we get to the end of the chapter, I'm passing it on the pages very fast. They get to vote on the plot, and from here they access the new challenge area. As you know, we always have the book forum. Is the second co-creation part of the book. They can decide, or they can answer, or they can somehow participate in the story through this. I guess I'm sharing the forum. Yeah. Okay. The authors post questions, very specific questions, so they can practice the English writing, and you as a teacher can also assess it. But I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Alastair Lane, who will explain you. I'm going to stop sharing. Who will explain you how it works. So Alastair, our head of ELT, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chris, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. We know you're all very busy teachers, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So yes, we're going to talk a bit about Fiction Express, the platform, but also various trends and ideas in ELT generally. Let me introduce myself. My name is Alastair Lane. I'm a teacher, a writer, a teacher trainer, and I'm now the head of publishing here at Fiction Express. So I'll do a screen share with you. I'm going to share my screen with you quite a bit today to show you different things. We have
Alastair, just briefly,
yes.
because Gemma just told me I didn't pass it on to her to do the poll. Let's do a very brief poll. So I'm so sorry, I just forget. Can you answer, please? How or when do you use the new ELT challenges? Even if you don't use them, you can answer something here. So if you would be so kind to answer it, so we know who are we talking to. Okay. Gemma, I don't know if you can share somehow.
Yeah. Right now we have 50% of participation, but most of them, they haven't used them yet. But the second choice is after finishing the book and between also while reading the book.
So, Alastair, great opportunity to show 50% of our audience how to use the new challenges. So,
okay. Well, let's do that. So first of all, I'll start with sharing part of this presentation. I hope you can see my screen. So in English, we have two ways of teaching language. We have our target language of the unit. This could be clothes, furniture, parts of the body. But one of the big new talking points in ELT is emergent language. Emergent language, here's a definition for you. Emergent language is the language that crops up naturally during a lesson. It arises through discussion and when students are giving their opinions. So, for example, an example of emergent language is perhaps the phrasal verb crops up in my definition, a word that arises naturally in the classroom and that you use as part of the lesson. In a Fiction Express book, we use both of these types of language. We need to cover the topic language because our students are studying for exams. They're doing ESO, they're doing bachelorate. But we're also interested in emergent language as well. What's interesting and exciting about a Fiction Express book is that we take our students into new worlds, strange situations, and unusual contexts. Here are just 3 of the books that we've published over the last year. We have The Winter Strangers, about Neanderthals, Triangle of Danger, set in the Bermuda Triangle, and 2,000 Miles Across Australia. As you can also see from the covers of our books, our main characters, our protagonists, are usually teenagers. So this emergent language tends to be teenage language and language of interest and use to teenagers themselves. We want to make people love the English language. We want to motivate them every single day in the classroom. And that's one way of doing that is to give them a vested interest in learning the language. They have a reason to learn it. They want to take it home. And you know, that buzz you get when you learn a new word and you think, oh, I love that word. I want to use that sometime. That's the kind of language we want to use. And to do that, I'm going to look at one of the books we've published recently called 5 Lives by Michael Lacey Freeman. 5 Lives tells the story of an alien who takes on human form and then visits the Earth. And one of the places that she visits is Madrid. And let me share the platform with you. I'm going to use the platform live so you see a little bit of how it works and how to navigate it. It may take me a little bit of time to move from one place to the other, but I don't think that's a big problem. Okay. So here we have 5 lives. It's just loading for a moment. In this book, excuse me, I'm just going to blow my nose for a moment. Too many colds here in Barcelona. In this book, Maria visits Madrid, which gives us an opportunity to explore a lexical set that doesn't often appear in course books. And one lexical set that we look at is Mediterranean language. I wonder, here we are, finally, it's loading. So every chapter of the book is accompanied by an activity sheet. Now it's working quickly. We'll go to the vocabulary page. And here we have a simple matching task. Now, because most course books are written in the UK with a sort of UK mindset, you don't often see these words appear in a course book. Garlic, olive oil, mussels. And yet these are words which are most useful for students living on the Mediterranean in Spain. And we can teach that using the activity sheets on the platform. But the problem with emergent language is that if you only see it once, you very quickly forget it because you need constant repetition and revision to use new language, to remember it and to use it in the future. And this is why we also have the challenges. And here are the challenges on the website. So in this case, we have a vocabulary challenge and we use the same language as in the activity page. The activity page can be used in class. The challenge can be used for homework, for fast finishers, and you can use it at the beginning of the next lesson. What's interesting about the challenges is that if you look at question number 4 here, it says there are mussels in tomato, oil, garlic, sauce. I'm looking at the teacher's page so you can see all of the answers. You can see that the distractors, the wrong answers, are also the target language. And here we have oil and garlic. So once the students have done the challenge, they can use these distractors in a new exercise. And I'd like to try that exercise with you now, please. Because you're teachers, I'll give you a little bit of a harder task than the students. If you'd like to put in the chat a new sentence for me using oil and garlic. And let's see what new language you can come up with. Do we have any answers coming, Chris? Do you see any answers in the chat appearing?
I have just posted one.
Ah, really?
But
Okay.
so please participate and try to write on the chat what you
Oil
did
and
you
garlic.
words you were your were oil and garlic, right?
Yes,
So
oil and garlic, oil and garlic. Or we could do garlic and sauce. I love garlic and oil toasts. I love garlic oil in my pasta. Pour a little olive oil in the pan, please. I like that one. I like
so
having
now we
bread
know what are the tastes,
with
right?
oil and garlic. I'm sure
How-
in England, everyone would say, "Oh, there's too much garlic. There's too much olive oil."
Of course. Okay.
So,
So one question,
mm,
Alastair, on the vocabulary side. How do you choose these words? I mean, you have said something related to Mediterranean versus English speaker book, so to speak. But how do you choose these words on the text or before the text? Can you explain this a little bit?
yes, very good question. I mean, there are three ways. Firstly, the author will choose the lexis that they need for their story. Secondly, we use the lexis that we need at each level, at A2 level in this case. So we know the lexis because we can check it against the CEFR. We could check it against online dictionaries where the lexis is listed. But also in this case, we can use the forum. So as you were showing earlier, Chris, that the students can put their own comments on the forum. We had a comment saying, Maria is on Earth, what food should she try? And the students put their ideas in. And that gave us ideas that we could include in the chapter. Because as I was saying, the key thing about emergent language is it should come naturally out of the classroom, because these are the words that the students naturally need in their own English use. And so from the forum, we discover what words they actually want and need to use. And that's what happened in this chapter and in this exercise, that the students suggested various dishes that Maria could try while she's in Madrid.
Okay, so in terms of vocabulary, what you would recommend is first to do the activity sheet, then to do the challenges to practice a little bit more on this, right? And then maybe create something similar to what we have just created. That would be, for example, a way to use it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So use the activity page in class, then do the challenge, and then give them a personalized task. We need to personalize the language if we want the students to use it. And that I think is an essential part of the learning process.
Okay, great. So I don't know if we have something more for the vocabulary, we can pass it on to the grammar challenge.
I think that's a good idea. Let's look at the grammar challenge. To do that, I'm going to look at one of our live books, The Sun Run. And in fact, we'll look at the grammar challenge, which is happening this week. So again, here's the live book. I need to go to the challenge page straight away in this case. Now, if you think of a classic, here's the grammar challenge. If you think of a classic course book, you would encounter your grammar in one unit. Unit 4, present perfect. Unit 6, futures. You study it, you learn it, and then you move on. And not many students just forget the grammar, and they never get a chance to review it. So the grammar challenges and the grammar we include in our books is always based on the syllabus that your students are learning at ESO, at Bachelorado, and is always something that will occur in their exams. And we assume that it's a form of review. They've already seen this grammar. And in this case, this is an A2 level book. We're looking at the third person S.
One question, Alastair, on this third person S. Why are you doing this one? And did you have some, I don't know, it's a part of a guide that we have. It's something that came up from teachers. What's the reason why you are choosing third person S?
Absolutely. If we follow the standard syllabus, we know what grammar will be studied at each level: A1, A2, B1, and so on. This case is quite interesting because after we publish each book, so we just saw 5 lives set in Madrid. After we published each book, we have a set of focus groups, and we ask teachers to give us feedback on the books. And the teachers in this case, in 5 Lives, said that one of the biggest problems for their students is third person S. And so we decided to do a grammar section on that in our latest book to address that need, so that we have very useful, high impact grammar. And that's the key idea here. Of course, the third person S is always complicated. It's a late disappearing error. This is because people always understand you when you use the third. If you use the third person S incorrectly, people still understand you. So students don't really have a need to change it until quite late in their English career, maybe B1 plus and higher.
Okay.
So here we have sentences from the chapter for them to review. Let's look at a slightly higher level book for the grammar as well, and we'll go to our level 3 book. And in fact, we'll go back a week to week 2, I think. This is a book set in New York in 1863. Let me go to the activities first. As you know, if you teach higher level students, one of the most difficult things is to give them solid content. I always think that you give them like a bag, and they put something in the bag at the end of the lesson. And at lower levels, it's easy. Today, I learned present simple. Today, I learned present perfect. But at B2, C1 level, sometimes they don't feel like they're really progressing. They don't really see that they're learning new structures. So we try to make sure that the structures that we teach are relevant to the level, and we communicate the message very clearly about what grammar they're learning. And here we have inversion, a rather difficult and tricky piece of grammar. And what we do here is we have, as we showed you earlier, we use the activities and the challenges together. So here's a worksheet that we would do in class, or perhaps for homework, and then students can then do the grammar, the challenge. And the challenge will have similar sentences, the same sentences. Why? In the past, you used to read texts in course books, and they were full of target language, and they didn't read very naturally. And it's very important to us that our texts and our stories are as natural as they can be. So we try to use as many pieces of a target language as possible, but we don't overuse them. So they see the grammar in context, inversion, and then they can then repeat the task for homework with a trick. And the trick is that in the grammar challenge, the last 2 questions are normally a completely new example of the target language.
So they
Just
go
to keep
deeper.
them on.
So they go deeper, right, Alastair? So they repeat, they practice, and then they do new ones, right?
Exactly. They can't just copy the sentences from the text. They can't just read the chapter. They also have to think again and reapply it. So we're raising the challenge at each stage of the learning process. So the main idea here is that with course books, you meet grammar, you practice it quickly, and you forget it. But if we can review it and then personalize it, then we can put that grammar in your head forever, and you can keep using it in your academic career.
Great. So great for the grammar challenge. Now we have covered the vocabulary challenge, the grammar challenge, and let's go to the listening challenge, which I guess we have one first question, right, Gemma?
Yes.
Please, we are going to pose one question on the screen. If you can answer it, please. The listening challenge. The one that began in November 2025, as you might remember. Do we have it, Gemma?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's pretty brand new, so almost, I mean, a lot of them, they haven't used it yet, but also 30% of the people who's voting, and they say that students listen in class, as a class, like all together, and also individually. So, but most of them is that they haven't used it yet.
So great again. So you can help us and explain how those listening were created and what was the visible goal and the hidden goal of it, because there's a hidden goal in the listening ones, right?
That's absolutely right. Let's go to back to our presentation. Oh, sorry, I don't think I did a share there. Let me do a share. Exactly right. So, well, I'll share that in a moment, actually. When you do the listening challenge, it's a little bit different from the listening challenges that you usually do in a course book. Because normally when you do a listening challenge in a course book, you're listening for the first time. You hear the audio and you answer questions. But our listening challenge uses a section of text from the story itself. Why is that? Well, one of our general impressions is that students are reading the books, but they're not using the listening enough. And it's very, very important with Spanish students to change the sound that they hear in their head. When they read an English book, the sounds they hear in their head don't always match the words they're reading on the page. English spelling is absolutely crazy, as we know. So we want to change that voice in their head and train them to listen and to understand spoken English. And this is where the listening challenge comes in. Let's have a look at this now. I'm sure many of you have seen those apps where you learn one word at a time. Apple, window, door, sausage. And in fact, that way of learning words is really becoming discredited, especially in terms of listening, because that's not how words sound when we actually speak. When we speak, the sound of the words changes. Let's look at these 3 example sentences here. 2 apples. My answer. 4 oranges. In real life, you almost never hear those words pronounced like that. They sound more like this. 2 apples. My answer. 4 oranges. Remember, we're doing listening here, not pronunciation. We're not saying this is correct speech, but this is what you're going to hear. So we have linking sounds. In the first phrase, we hear the w in 2 apples. You don't normally say a w in 2. You don't say two, but you do say 2 apples. In my answer, you hear a y sound, my answer. And in the last one, you hear a little r, 4 oranges. So to train your ear to understand English sounds, you need to hear words in sentences. You need to hear them in context. It's not just enough to hear door, window, and so on. And that's where our listening challenge comes in. Let's do a share now with the website and our share sound, hopefully. And we're going to look at our latest book, Triangle of Danger. And we'll also look at the latest chapter. Here's the listening challenge. You see they're all on little tabs, listening. And here we have the listening challenge. So let's get stuck in. Let's look at the first paragraph of this book. This is the one that begins here, Patricia, and down to tunnel. I would like you to listen and just to the first paragraph and see if you can hear the 3 examples of linking sounds in this paragraph. There are 3. I hope that you'll be able to hear the audio. Let's go. And please write them in the chat. If you can hear them, write them in the chat. The 3 examples of linking sounds in this first chapter. 4 oranges, 2 apples, etc. Here we go.
Patricia tried the room's door, but it was locked, and there were no windows. The only way out of the ship was back through the tunnel.
I'll play it again for you because I'm feeling nice this afternoon.
Patricia tried the room's door, but it was locked, and there were no windows. The only way out of the ship was back through the tunnel.
So, Chris, do we have anyone brave enough to say what the linking sounds are there?
No, not yet. How many linking sounds?
There are
could we
three. I
find?
would say there are three in that first
There are three.
paragraph.
Okay, that's
Three.
one. Way out. No windows. The only
Yes, way out, way out. In fact, the
Way
whole
out.
thing there, way out of, way out of, way out of. Yes, two more.
No windows. There
No
was
windows. Good, well
Yeah.
noticed. And see that that's actually the word that the students have to capture here.
Yeah.
Windows, no windows.
And there's one missing, right?
One missing in the very first sentence.
Okay. Was locked, they say.
Oh, nearly. Was locked? Yeah, it's kind of like was locked. But
Room's door.
let's listen again. We'll just listen again and I will see if we can get it.
Patricia tried the room's door, but it was locked.
It was.
But it was locked.
Okay.
But it was locked.
Yeah. Okay, so there were three only in one paragraph, right?
Just in one paragraph, exactly.
Okay.
You know, students can't just assume that they're going to hear independent words. Patricia tried the room. That's not how English works.
Yeah.
And what we're doing here is we're building good habits. We want students to practice with these short texts and then listen more in their own time, because what we're looking at here is the flipped classroom. Now, I know you all know what the flipped classroom is, but I will just share a quick definition with you of that. The flipped classroom. Students learn new material or do heads down activities at home so that class time can focus on communicative heads up activities. We want the students to change this sound that they have in their head. We want them to feel confident about listening to English. So we want them to do these short listening challenges and then go home and listen to the whole chapter. And it's really not long. Each chapter is only 10 minutes. Every chapter has an audio recording with it. And students need to get in the habit of reading the chapter and listening to that audio in their own time. Rereading the chapter, 10 minutes on the bus, 10 minutes for free time, and really practice their ear. They shouldn't just read, finish the book, say, finish teacher, next. You know, they need to reread and revisit the text to develop mastery and to really develop their hearing skills, their listening skills in English.
Great. So the recommendation is do it in class, maybe the whole class as a whole class activity, and then when they get, but with this practice that you were advising, and then go back and then why not reread the text again along with the audio, which will help us to change this word. How is it said, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we're trying to empower the students here. We want them to take control of their own learning. So with the challenges, they can practice these at home. They can practice pronunciation in their own time and listening in their own time.
Great. So now I think we are going to the last one, the most challenging one in terms of development, I must say, because it also implies AI. So the pronunciation challenge.
And I think Gemma has a question for the pronunciation challenge. Is that right, Gemma?
Yeah,
yes, here we are.
Yeah. How do you work if you have begun with the pronunciation challenge? Because it's a very, very brand new one.
Okay, I was waiting a little bit because to let time to people to let vote.
Yes.
But 58% of the people haven't used it yet. So it's pretty normal because it's brand new. But the other people said the students work alone at home. And some of them also the 8% in groups in class.
Okay, very nice way of, but we have 58% of new joiners. So
It is very new. The pronunciation challenge was only launched in the present cycle, actually. So it's not surprising that people haven't used it just yet. Okay, so we look at the flipped classroom, the idea that we can do some exercises in class and some at home. Imagine you're in the class and the teacher says, Maria, read paragraph 1. Poor Maria. She probably doesn't know what the paragraph means yet. She's probably never seen it before. And this is creating stress. All her friends are looking at her. And I'm sure that there will be some pretty horrible words in that paragraph that she can't read. I've been living in Spain for 20 years. I still can't say arroz, arriba, or even worse, like ferrocarriles. So our students have the same sort of stress. So we know that reading aloud is stressful and therefore perhaps a bit demotivating. However, we also know that reading aloud is very good to develop pronunciation and fluency. And if we can improve students' pronunciation and fluency, we can increase their confidence. Many Spanish speakers of English lack confidence because of their pronunciation. And it's definitely an area where we can really help them and show them that their English is perhaps better than they think. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a useful skill. Sorry, let me just do another screen share with you. We've talked about the flipped classroom. We're going to talk now about shadow reading. Shadow reading, where students listen to audio and repeat the words at the same time. And this is a very useful way of practicing your pronunciation. We'll do this looking at the website again, the platform. So I'll do another screen share with you. We're going to go back now to the Sun Run, which is one of our live books. Here we have the Sun Run, and we're going to go to last week. You see, it's very easy to navigate the platform and find these challenges. Platform 2, chapter 2, and here's the pronunciation challenge. You can see that it's a very short text. It's only a paragraph. Even at high levels, it's only 50 words. Pronunciation doesn't get harder if it's longer. It's to do with the words themselves. So it's good to have a short piece that students can master in their own time. Now, I wouldn't say, Maria, read the paragraph. The first thing I'd do is I would play the pronunciation model, and which is here. I'll play that for you.
The sun is shining and the countryside is beautiful. The 4 cyclists are close together. They go on a special cycle path. Benny flies Louise's drone in front of them. He films from the left. He films from the right.
I would play the pronunciation model, and then I would ask them a question. Which words are difficult to pronounce? And I'd ask them to make a list. So that's my question to you as teachers. Which words here do you think are difficult for your students to pronounce in this short text? And please write them in the chat. Do we have any answers?
Cyclist, shining, cyclist. Maybe words that for you were not that difficult, but for us, cycles.
Yeah,
cycles,
any kind of S.
Countryside.
Yeah, countryside, definitely. Shining, you get a shining. Beautiful. I thought beautiful is quite a difficult word.
No, no one. I think beautiful is a word that we learned from the very first year. So
it's
Louise's, for
quite
example, Louise's is like 12.
Louise's, yes,
Yeah.
with a possessive
Cycle,
S.
path, countryside. Okay, not maybe beautiful that you were thinking of.
No, but the important thing is that we ask the students themselves to identify the difficult words, and we say to them, these are difficult. So they're not sitting in silence thinking, oh, how do I say that word? And then I would drill those words with the students. So I would drill them and teach them the pronunciation. And then I would ask them to shadow read. And they can shadow read in their own time. And shadow reading, I'll just do it for you. It's very straightforward. You simply read and listen at the same time.
The sun is shining and the countryside is beautiful.
The
The
four cyclists are close together. They
go on a special cycle
path, etc. And it's a very good way of practicing your listening whilst hearing an English speaker in your ear at the same time. And once they've done all of that, you've drilled the sounds, they've practiced they can do the shadow reading at home, then they can finally record the pronunciation challenge for themselves. They can only record the pronunciation challenge once. This is because we are going to analyze that using our in-house software. So they need to get themselves ready to record that. And then when they're ready, they can then send it to you as the teacher. The key thing is it's not just pronunciation, read, speak. We're going to try and make it a staggered process. We're going to use the flipped classroom. So the classroom will help them prepare for practicing their pronunciation in their own time at home.
Alistair, so as to close it a little bit, what would you advise?
Well, I think the main thing is that reading is not really a passive skill, that with these texts, you can do activities before, during, and after the class. You can learn new vocabulary, this emergent language. You can use it to practice your pronunciation because you've heard the words in advance and you've met them before. You can practice your listening at home because you've read the chapter, you know the content, and you can try and capture the words in your own time. You can also use it to review that grammar that you've forgotten, and that perhaps you're shy to say to your teacher, I don't know how you use would or must and might and things like that. So it's very much a case that we're looking at this flipped classroom, giving teachers material to use in class, giving plenty of practice material for students, empowering students, but at the same time making life easy for the teachers, because as teachers you don't have to spend a lot of time looking for these new materials and preparing them, because they are already there on the platform ready for you to use.
So the reading part, the writing part with the forum, and then the whole practice or with all the 4 dimensions that we have to cover. So that's it for today. Thank you very, very much, Alastair, and thank you everyone to join us, to those who have joined. And we are going to send the recording for those of you who might want it, but to everyone that has registered. Some of you said that you could not join, but we are going to send you the recording again. So thank you very, very much. We hope to see you in the challenges, and above all on the new and in the ones for the speaking part, right? The listening and the pronunciation, the oracy, which is kind of the big animal for us, this pronunciation in English. Okay. So thank you everyone, and thank you, Alastair, for your time and for your knowledge.
No, our pleasure. And I hope it was useful for everyone. We always try to think of practical applications in the classroom, because I think that's the most important part of our role.
I'm sure it was. Thank you, everyone, and see you on the next webinar.